Farm Week is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, the USDA has given conditional approval to a vaccine that controls the PED virus in hogs.
President Obama signs into law a bipartisan bill to improve commerce on our nation's waterways.
In southern gardening, purple coneflowers. They're hardy and they're beautiful.
In the markets, a new cattle on feed report is out, and one poultry company is banking on falling grain prices by year's end.
In the feature segment, FARMtastic, this program is using hands-on learning to teach young people where their food and fiber comes from.
I just wanted to see the kids learn where their food and fiber comes from. I was tired of going to the schools and being around and the kids telling me that chocolate milk come from a brown cow.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
A swine disease that increased pork prices in the store may be headed toward control.
Leighton, the U.S. Department of Agriculture has granted a conditional license to the first vaccine for PEDv. That's short for porcine epidemic diarrhea virus. PEDv is not harmful to humans, but it is harmful to swine, especially to pigs. PEDv has killed an estimated 7 million pigs in 30 states. Harris Vaccine came up with the vaccine it calls IPED. It's already sold almost 2 million test doses. The conditional license will allow Harris Vaccine to sell its vaccine direct to veterinarians and farmers. It is given to pregnant sows 1 week to 10 days before the pigs are born. This boosts antibody levels and allows the sows to pass along the antibodies to their piglets. Those who have had access to the test vaccine did note that it dramatically reduced PEDv in herds that already had the virus. Rabobank estimates that the disease will reduce American hog slaughter numbers by 12.5 million this year. That's an estimated 6 to 7% decline, the largest drop in 30 years. Hog numbers will drop the most from August to October as losses that occurred during the winter become evident.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture predicts that agricultural exports will soar to a record $149.5 billion this year, due largely to strong foreign demand for U.S. grain and oilseeds. These moves mostly by river down to ocean ports where they are shipped to the world. Last week, an all-too-rare display of unity in Washington resulted in a $12 billion project to improve U.S. ports and flood control in some areas. Market to Market's Mike Pearson reports.
Waterways across America will get a facelift after the stroke of Barack Obama's pen. The president approved a $12.3 billion bill aimed at improving historic ports and enhancing flood control in the Corn Belt.
As more of the world's cargo is transported on these massive ships, we've got to make sure that we've got bridges high enough and ports that are big enough to hold them and accommodate them so that our businesses can keep selling goods made in America to the rest of the world. Meanwhile, many of America's businesses ship their goods across the country by river and by canal. So we've got to make sure that those waterways are in tip-top shape. And this bill gives a green light to 34 water infrastructure projects across the country, including projects to deepen Boston Harbor and the Port of Savannah and to restore the Everglades. And with Congress's authorization, these projects can now move forward. What was important for
this bill enjoyed bipartisan support from congressional leaders as the language contained no pet projects or pork traditionally included in spending bills. The price tag was half of a similar measure approved 7 years ago. The legislation authorized the diversion of the Red River in the Fargo-Moorhead area, which has dealt with several major floods in recent years. Cedar Rapids, Iowa also will receive money for flood management. Coastal communities were allocated funds for hurricane and storm damage reduction, and environmental restoration is also included in the law. All of the improvements were recommended by the Army Corps of Engineers, and the rare instance of congressional compromise sets the stage for nearly 36 projects over the next decade and may help pave the way for approaching legislation.
The fact that this bill received some bipartisan support, I think, hopefully sets a pattern for additional work that we can do on our transportation infrastructure. We need a transportation bill by the end of this summer in order to make sure that projects all across the country don't get shut down.
Well, let's check on the Mississippi Weekly Crop Report from the Mississippi Ag Statistics Service in Jackson. Now, this report reflects conditions as of last Sunday, June 15th. And as we look at topsoil moisture, we saw last week's topsoil moisture inch up some, 45% surplus in the state, almost half, adequate in 51% of the state. Mississippi wheat, only 24% of the crop harvested. The rain has definitely slowed that down. Average is 82% for this state. Mississippi sweet potato planting running far behind because of the moisture as well, only 35% complete as of last Sunday. Mississippi peanuts running behind, not quite as bad, but still behind, only 80% complete as of June 15th. Normally it's practically finished. And Mississippi cool season hay baling, only 70% complete as of June 15th. Well, do you think that native plants have to be boring in the landscape? In this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman will tell us why he thinks purple coneflowers are one of the best plants for your garden.
Purple coneflower is a great native plant, and I personally think it's one of the best plants you can grow in your garden. Today I'm in the All-America Selections Trial Garden at the MSU South Mississippi Branch Station in Poplarville, and I have to say I'm crazy for coneflowers. Who can resist the 2 to 4 inch flowers with bright purple petals and dark center cones? The foliage and stems have hairy surfaces that remind you of medium grit sandpaper. Typically, coneflowers are large back row plants in perennial beds or borders. But plant breeders are developing more compact plants, such as the 2010 All-America Selections winner, Pow Wow Wildberry, that grows up to 20 inches tall. The superior branching results in many 3 to 4 inch flowers that bloom continuously with no deadheading. Though named for the color purple, varieties are being developed with other colors. These coneflowers with orange, yellow, and red flowers are being evaluated for future release. Coneflowers should be considered a tender perennial in the coastal regions, but for the rest of the state, it's a true perennial. The plant is susceptible to crown rot during the winter months. Mississippi gardeners should plant coneflowers in raised beds to help keep the plant crown drier. Coneflowers may be an ideal plant for busy gardeners because they thrive on neglect. Irrigation is only needed during extreme droughts. I'm Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Now, Gary says since purple coneflowers thrive on neglect, they are a good choice for gardeners like me.
And us, yeah.
Like us.
Those without a green thumb, right?
We're just lazy. In the feature segment today, FARMtastic. This effort helps elementary school students learn where food and fiber comes from, not the store, but a farm. Time now for the markets with Layton, and we're only a week away from the June 30th planted acreage report from USDA.
A report that could be a market mover, and we'll be talking in a moment about what it may have to say about soybeans. Also in our market headlines this week, U.S. catfish processing is down. A shortage of market hogs in the United States is now possible, while some poultry processors are expecting lower grain prices. The latest snapshot of the U.S. farm-raised catfish industry came out on Tuesday the 17th. In May, producers in the United States received a pond bank price of $1.21 per pound for premium-sized live fish. That is 28 cents per pound more than was paid 1 year ago. Farm sales totaled just a touch over 22 million pounds round weight. That is a drop of 18% from May of 2013. And processor sales were also down in May, down 4% when compared to 1 year ago. The feeder cattle market posted limit down losses in the futures on Wednesday of this past week. Traders at Brugler Marketing say it was a result of the large spec funds taking money off the table ahead of the June 20th cattle on feed report. The limit down surge in feeders also sent live cattle contracts lower at the Merc on Wednesday. As we record Thursday at midday, feeder cattle were back in the green. Extension Ag economist John Michael Riley provided a preview of the new on-feed numbers when I interviewed him one day ahead of the new report. John Michael, the pre-reports indicating any dramatic changes as far as the on-feed numbers?
Nothing dramatic. It's really just continuing with the trend that we've been seeing for the past number of months, a continual decline in the total inventories of cattle available, fewer cattle being placed on feed, and then overall, as a result of that, fewer cattle marketed. The marketing numbers probably the most, the widest range in terms of the pre-report guesses, largely due to the month of May that is the start of the grilling season. You've got Memorial Day in there, so there's a lot of uncertainty about how the total marketings during the month of May is going to shape up. So that's the one that we're least certain about, but everything's just a continual trend in terms of a total drop in supplies.
Is there anything in this report that could tell us whether herd expansion is underway, or is that something we'll have to wait on a little bit longer?
Well, this will be a quarterly report. We'll be able to see the breakout by class, so we'll know how many heifers were placed, and that's always a good indicator in terms of heifers being retained back. But I think just the general consensus as I visit with producers across the state and a recent meeting with other extension specialists in the region, I do sense that there is a hope to expand, but the limitations are still there in terms of just capital requirements and whatnot.
All right, Wednesday this week we had a turn limit down as far as feeder cattle. That got a big headline. Is that just an anomaly? I know this morning as we record Thursday, things are kind of back in the green here.
It is. I think it's been called sell the expectation and then buy the fact. I think what happened is there was some money on the table, and we had some traders there that decided to take it off before the report, just in case the report didn't shake out like we're expecting. It is back up to where we started the day yesterday. So it's recovered most of those losses, but it is just a very volatile market that we're working in. We're up $10 per hundredweight just since the start of June for our feeder cattle contracts, and so that's a significant move just in a short period of time. And so this volatility is probably going to continue.
The back and forth discussion on how significant an impact the porcine epidemic diarrhea virus is having on the pork industry continues. Analyst Walt Hackney now says the idea that we'll see a shortage of hogs is back on the table and looks very real.
At first, the industry thought it's been overstated a little bit, the death loss. We don't have the 10% death loss that had been anticipated. Then again, all of a sudden, it looked like, well, we do. Now it looks like that we're going to have a general shortage of market hogs through the third quarter. At the end of the third quarter, however, then the guesswork really starts.
We break from the markets for a moment to look at the trivia quiz for this week. The question is about watermelons. Here it is. How many acres of watermelons were harvested in Mississippi in 2013? Is the answer 1,000, 1,600, 2,000 acres, or 2,500? I'll tell you at the end of the markets.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar and the rest of the markets. In the feature segment today, FARMtastic. This initiative is teaching elementary school students that the food they eat is grown on farms and not in stores.
Our tradition of learn by doing is creating new opportunities. My 4-H is involved with service projects in communities all across our state.
We develop leaders for Mississippi's future.
My 4-H is science and technology, everything from computers and robotics to exploring our environment.
My 4-H promotes active lifestyles and encourages physical fitness, healthy foods, and nutrition.
My 4-H is Mississippi 4-H.
Before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. The annual agronomy field day will take place at Mississippi State University's North Mississippi Research and Extension Center. That's on Highway 145 at Verona. The date is Thursday, August 7th. Now, growers should meet at the conference building at the nearby Lee County Agri Center. Field tours will leave from there. The hours are 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Lunch will be served. There's no registration fee. And are you interested in growing for a farmer's market? Well, then you should participate in the Mississippi Microfarming short course to take place on Wednesday and Thursday, August 27th and 28th. Location will be the Eagle Ridge Conference Center in Jackson. The short course is free, but advanced registration is required. What vegetables and fruits to grow for farmers markets and selling at farmers markets are just a few of the items on the agenda. We'll have a link on our calendar to help you register. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
This week brought a glimpse of what the highly anticipated June 30th acreage report may have to say about this year's U.S. crops. Analyst Elaine Cubb says that Informa Economics is hinting at numbers that show a slight switch from corn to soybeans, thereby pushing soybean acreage higher this year.
And I actually am really on board with what they're thinking there is perhaps a slight increase in soybean acreage, perhaps 300,000 extra acres adding on to the 81.5 million acres that USDA last weighed in on for soybean acres. And that makes sense when you consider that there has been some localized lateness, some wetness in the northern plains. They're on track now, and they're certainly going to catch up and get probably all of their soybean acres planted in North Dakota, Wisconsin type of areas. But there may have been some slight amount of switching from corn to soybeans that may be a bearish factor when that comes along.
Officials at Laurel-based chicken processor Sanderson Farms have been putting a pencil to what they think some grain prices may do by the end of this year. The company says it believes that corn could fall to $4 a bushel from about $4.52 now. And soybean meal could drop, according to Sanderson, as low as $375 per ton from its current position of near $531 per ton. Analysts say if these prices do come to pass, Sanderson and other chicken companies could experience what is being termed a cost tailwind. And before our feature story, we revisit the trivia quiz and give you the answer. The correct choice this week is C. 2,000 acres of watermelons were harvested in Mississippi last year.
With agriculture being Mississippi's #1 industry, you might be surprised that most state residents still aren't aware of where food and fiber comes from. In response, the Mississippi State University Extension Service and Mississippi Farm Bureau have created FARMtastic, an event that offers young people hands-on, up-close learning experiences about agriculture. The effort has had some early success and appears to be spreading across the state. Farmweek's Amy Taylor reports from Starkville.
If you get the chance to experience FARMtastic, you'll realize there's no brief way to describe this event because there's so much to see. The event is designed to educate young people about where their food, fiber, clothing, and other important items come from, such as products made from trees. Mississippi State University Extension Service agent Julie White explains the inspiration behind FARMtastic, which was created in 2012 by MSU Extension Service and Mississippi Farm Bureau.
I just wanted to see the kids learn where their food and fiber comes from. I was tired of going to the schools and being around and the kids telling me that chocolate milk come from a brown cow. And I'm a dairy farmer, and every time I milked cows, it was always white. And so I really wanted to do something to promote agriculture in our county.
White says the event offered 7 stations. The first was a livestock exhibit with cattle, horses, goats, chickens, and turkeys. Next, visitors went through a large row crop station that included a cotton gin, soybean exhibit, and even a display explaining the development of farm equipment from the very beginning. They were also educated about peanut farming and sweet potato production in Mississippi. Additionally, a wonder garden demonstrated fruit and vegetable gardening and the process of photosynthesis and soil composition. In the wildlife and forestry exhibit, Young people learned about identifying animal tracks and how to determine the age of a tree, as well as everyday items that come from trees. Next, the farm toy exhibit educated students about the role agriculture plays in sports and recreational items. Additionally, a farm village was created to show the connection agriculture has with grocery stores, farm supplies, medical centers, the construction of buildings, and even transportation. Finally, young people were educated about how the nutritional guide called My Plate should be used when preparing healthy meals. Mississippi State University Animal and Dairy Sciences undergraduate instructor Jessica Graves helped with the livestock exhibit.
Basically, we have students come in and walk through and learn about different agriculture and livestock species. So those students have the ability to go station to station, learn about what dairy cows are, where milk comes from, learn what products that we get from dairy cows. Likewise, they stop and see a pig, and so they learn where bacon comes from and where ham comes from, etc.
Additionally, Graves says young people were shown how to milk a cow and learned the various types of grain and seed that are fed to livestock. Nelda Stark with Mississippi Farm Bureau talks about the activity she led at FARMtastic.
Today I'm making pancakes, showing them the relationship between pancakes and wheat. We have a display of wheat growing and some pictures of the harvest scene. So I want them to know that the pancakes are a result of the wheat being made into flour and then into pancakes.
In addition, Stark says students were given cups of fresh whipping cream to shake up and make into butter. Stark also planted the vegetables that were in the Wonder Garden exhibit to help illustrate the connection between the farm and the plate. Volunteers say before visiting FARMtastic, young people had some pretty interesting ideas about where they thought food and agricultural products came from.
I had students come up and ask me about what part of a dairy cow does eggs come from, and I had to explain that eggs are not dairy, that eggs do come from poultry, and those are two separate entities.
When I ask them where pancakes come from, some will say from a pig, from a cow, from corn, and of course I correct them and tell them that most pancakes are made from wheat.
Of course, they, don't always pick up on the things that we want them to, whether it's they still tell us that cotton comes from a sheep, was one of the comments that we've had this week, but we've kind of corrected that as they've gone through the exhibit. And so we hope that they are picking up the actual facts about where their food and fiber comes from, and they're just really excited. Their faces just light up as they're in the exhibit, and that is why I do this.
White says countless hours went into building the structures used in FARMtastic, which were carefully designed to portray the need for agriculture in our daily lives. For example, the farm village featured a wide variety of agricultural products. The exhibit displayed food products, building supplies, a farm store, medical center, and even a sporting goods shop. Additionally, students were given a worksheet to help them comprehend what they learned. Julie White says the young people enjoyed each activity, but one particular exhibit was the favorite.
Farm Toys has been their favorite room this year, and that's our sports room. Basically, it highlights how football and basketball and baseball and golf and those big sports that we like to play couldn't take place without agriculture, because football is actually made from the pigskin, so we have to have those. But that has been their favorite room, and I think it just kind of gives them a break in going through the rooms. It gives them a break and time to play.
Additionally, White says she and others involved in FARMtastic have plans to expand the event. While they are happy to host FARMtastic at the Mississippi Horse Park in Starkville, they hope to take it to other locations as well.
What we'd really like to do is take this statewide eventually and have it housed at the different agri-centers around the state, including sometime during the State Fair of the Dixie National. We also will be writing a curriculum that we will be able to provide the third grade teachers that they can use before and after in their classrooms to make this more of a program instead of just an event, and to give a full range of agriculture education throughout a school year.
Right now, FARMtastic includes 7 stations, and next year, White says aquaculture will be added as the 8th exhibit. In only its second year, the annual event drew a crowd of 800 visitors, and White says they hope to increase that number in the future. By observing the reactions of young people who experience FARMtastic, it can be expected the event will continue to succeed at teaching our young people about the necessity of agriculture in their daily lives. From Starkville, Mississippi, I'm Amy Taylor reporting.
And you can watch this story again on FARMtastic on our Farmweek website, Facebook page, or YouTube. The website address is farmweek.msucares.com. Now, if you're interested in attending FARMtastic or starting your own, Julie White can help. We'll have her phone number and contact links on our website and Facebook page. And Leighton, this November, it'll be again in Starkville. I believe they're having one up at South Haven as well this coming year. You know, it takes a lot of work to do this. You got to have the plants at the right growth stage, but if you don't have the hands-on where they can touch it and get excited, that learning is not necessarily going to happen. If it's all posters, that's not going to have an impact. That actual being able to touch and find out is what they need. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, Greens and Gills.
You will travel to Chicago, where an indoor farming operation is growing microgreens and fish. It's taking aquaponics to a new level.
In Southern Gardening, Cleome. They're known for their stickers, or they used to be, but those are gone now. Also called spider flowers, they're well suited for our hot, dry southern climate. For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.